This road I'm following winds across the coastline, and it's really busy with cars driving at crazy speeds, but other than that, it's got nothing. No trees, no grassy areas, no place to hide. It's just cliffs down to the sea on one side and cliffs straight up on the other. I don't even know where it's taking me. All I know is I'm going north. I've run out of my rations from the market. This is not a complaint, just a fact. And since I'm hungry and feeling pretty worn out from walking so much and not sleeping enough, I almost said, sure, when this man pulled over and asked me if I wanted a ride. A ride would have been so nice, but like I said before, I don't hitchhike. My mom and I used to hitchhike once in a while when the van wouldn't start, and we never had any problem. People were nice and friendly and helpful. Then came the day that Eddie crashed the van. Mom and I had been hiding out in the woods for hours and hours and hours, but Mom was in a bad way. She was shivering and having the dry heaves, and finally she said, Baby, I need to get to a doctor. So we walked back to the road, and Mom put out her thumb. After a while, a dark blue SUV pulled over, kicking up a big cloud of dust. The driver rolled down the passenger window and said, Need a lift back to town? He was friendly and nicely dressed, and my mom managed to smile and say, Yes, thanks so much. I got him back, she climbed in front. Everything looked tidy, new, and it smelled like vanilla inside the car. I remember really liking the way it smelled. But after we'd been driving along for a while, the guy reached over and started playing with my mom's hair. My mom had beautiful hair, long and thick and curly. That day it was tied back because it really needed washing, but he didn't seem to notice. He reached right over and undid the clip. I remember thinking that was weird. I remember feeling very uncomfortable. My mom tried to take the clip back, but he just laughed and put it aside. Then he started stroking her hair, which made me really uncomfortable. My mom whispered, Stop it, and pulled away from him. He clamped a hand around the back of her neck and yanked her toward him, saying, Don't you tell me to stop. She whimpered, Please, as she looked at me between the seats. My daughter. He looked at me in the rear view mirror, but didn't let go. Please, my mom begged. You're hurting her, I cried, and tugged on his arm, trying to get him to let her go. He did let go, but his hand flew back and smacked me in the face. He hit me square in the nose, and I remember being freaked out by the amount of blood that was gushing out of it. My mom screamed when she saw the blood, and it seemed to set something off in him. He started hitting her with the side of his fist, yelling awful stuff as he beat her again and again and again. Stop it, I screamed, and I tried to get in between them. My hands were covered with blood from my nose, and when he saw that it was getting all over his clothes and his car, he slammed on the brakes and swerved to the side of the road. Get out, he shouted, and before we'd even finished stumbling out of the car, he was peeling away. And the first thing Mom did was hold my cheeks and say, Baby, did he knock out your teeth? No, Mom, I told her. It's just my nose. Did he break it? I don't know. It was tender, but I couldn't tell if it was broken. I pinched it to stop the bleeding. Mom looked right in my eyes and whispered, I'm so sorry, baby. I'm so sorry. Why did he do that? I asked her. What did we do wrong? We did nothing wrong. Her hands had moved down to my shoulders, and she said, Promise me something, baby. Promise me that when you get older, you will never, ever hitchhike. I nodded, but that wasn't good enough. She shook my shoulders a little and said, Promise me. So I let go of my nose and said, I promise. And that's why no matter how tired I am of walking, or how nice or friendly the person acts, I won't hitchhike. Ever. It's the only promise she ever asked me to make. I should stop writing now, but I can't. That day was probably the second worst day of my life. The knife fight behind the van, Eddie crashing the van and flying through the window, hiding in the woods, seeing my mom so sick, hitchhiking, being attacked by a madman. It was a nightmare, and I want to get to the end of it. If I can just get to the end of it, maybe I can get it out of my mind. So okay. By the time we'd walked into town, my mother was back to shivering and dry heaving. I remember asking her, Why are you so sick? Why are you so sick again, Mother? You seemed to be better for a while. She didn't answer. She was too busy concentrating on finding a doctor. We wound up in a really scary part of town with barbed wire and graffiti everywhere, and the building she went to didn't look like a doctor's office at all. It was a tall brick walk-up with bars on the windows and garbage strewn all about. Inside the front door, she planted me in a corner on the floor and said, Wait right here. Don't go anywhere. You hear me? I nodded and I stayed put, but the corner smelled bad, and the people who went up and down the stairs scared me. They looked mean, and I remember thinking that their eyes looked smoggy, hazy and dirty and yellowed. Mom took forever to come back, but when she wobbled down the stairs, she had told me that she was feeling much better. I was starving and exhausted, and it was dark outside. Where are we going to sleep? I asked her, but she collapsed at the foot of the stairs. Mom? I cried. Mom, are you all right? Her eyes opened about halfway, and that was the first time I noticed that my mom's eyes were smoggy too. It's all right, baby, she said. Her voice was airy, real happy sounding. "Why don't we sleep here tonight?" "Here?" I looked around. "Mom, wake up! We can't sleep here!" But she wouldn't budge. I didn't know what to do. I wanted to ask someone for help, but there was nobody around, and I had this awful feeling that the people in this big brick building couldn't help me anyway. I shook her and I did cry some, but after a while I started looking around and I found a closet. It was a broom closet, so it wasn't very big, but it was better than sleeping out in the hall. So I woke my mom up enough to drag her into it and shut us both inside. I was very uncomfortable, and I finally fell asleep sitting up. She didn't seem to mind. She fell asleep with her head in my lap.